Welcome to Housing After 60. I am Charles Odell. On this site, we analyze the math and the reality of senior housing to find your best options. Let's get started.
Welcome to another deep dive from Housing After 60. Today we're looking at a critical question for 2026. Is your monthly housing payment breaking the 4% rule? This is all based on our latest research at housingafter60.com. And look, this is a question that's causing some serious sleepless nights for retirees. This idea that your own home, your biggest asset, might actually be quietly sabotaging your entire retirement plan.
So let's just dive right in. Is your home a retirement trap? You know, for decades, we've all been told that a paid-off house is the ultimate sign of security, right? But what we're seeing now, especially heading into 2026, is that it can actually be a liability disguised as an asset, something that's slowly, quietly draining the very funds you need to actually live.
Okay, so this all really starts with a concept that, for a generation, has been the absolute bedrock of retirement planning, the 4% rule. But here's the thing. As we're about to see, that bedrock is starting to crack. It's under siege from forces a lot of retirees just never saw coming. So what is the 4% rule, really? Well, think of your retirement savings like a big bucket of water. That bucket has to last you through a, let's say, 30-year drought. The rule is basically your sipping speed. It says you can safely take out 4% in your very first year of retirement, and then you just adjust that amount for inflation every year after that. It's this incredibly careful balancing act, you know? You need enough money today, but you can't run the bucket dry when you're 90. And here's what that sipping speed actually looks like in the real world. Let's say you've saved $500,000, a fantastic achievement. Well, that's just $1,666 a month to live on. Even with $1 million nest egg, you're looking at about $3,333 a month. I mean, when you see those raw numbers right there, you realize just how tight that budget really is. There is practically zero room for error. And that right there is the crucial point. Your home's value? It might have doubled, maybe even tripled. But you can't use that to pay for prescriptions or your electric bill. There's this great quote, "You can't eat equity." And it just says it all, doesn't it? A high home value feels fantastic on paper, but it's the monthly cash flow that actually determines your quality of life. And this is where the problem really starts to get worse, because your mortgage payment, if you even still have one, that's just the tip of the iceberg. The real danger for retirees, especially now, is all those hidden costs that are lurking just below the surface. Just think about this number for a second. 16%. That's how much insurance premiums are jumping this year alone in places like California and Florida. And this isn't some one-time repair bill. No, this is a permanent, sudden increase to your cost of living. It's the silent killer of retirement budgets because that steady, predictable 4% withdrawal, it was never designed to handle shocks like this. Okay, now let's look at some real-world numbers. Take a pretty modest $400,000 home. Even if it's completely paid off, you've still got property taxes, that spiking insurance we just talked about, and of course, a maintenance fund. Because trust me, houses will demand their tribute. You add it all up, and suddenly, boom, you're at $2,850 a month just to keep the lights on and the roof from leaking. And here is the reality check. To generate that $2,850 a month just for the house, the 4% rule says you need a nest egg of $855,000. Just let that sink in. If you retired with $1 million, which is a huge accomplishment, nearly all of your safe withdrawal income is going right back into the house. That leaves you with less than $500 a month for everything else. We're talking food, gas, healthcare, seeing your grandkids. It is simply not sustainable. And that's what leads to this feeling, this trap. When all your money is going to the house, you're not really retired, are you? You're a full-time unpaid property manager. You're house poor. And that beautiful home you worked so hard for, it becomes a prison with a really nice lawn. So, okay, what's the safe limit then? That brings us to what we call the 30% danger zone. And this is really the core guideline that separates financial security from constant nagging stress in retirement. The guideline itself is pretty simple. You want to keep your total housing costs under 30% of your total retirement income. And that's not just your 4% draw. That includes Social Security, any pensions, all of it. So why 30%? Well, think about it. At 75, you can't just go pick up an overtime shift to cover a new roof. Your income is fixed. That means your exposure to risk has to be managed and managed strictly. And this chart here really shows where you might fall on that spectrum. So down here at 20%, you're what we call a strategic winner. You've got flexibility, you've got freedom, but creep up to 40%, Now you're officially house poor. You're always just one surprise expense away from debt. And if you get all the way up to 60%, that's a structural deficit. That's a fancy way of saying you are mathematically guaranteed to run out of money. At that point, you are living for your house, not for yourself.
Let me put this another way because this is so important. If your home is eating up 40% or more of your retirement income, you are, in effect, evicting your future self. You are sacrificing the safety and security of your 85-year-old self just so you can maintain a house that, honestly, you can't truly afford at 70.
Okay, I know this all sounds a little stark, a little scary even, but here is the good news. You are not trapped. There are clear, totally actionable pathways to get yourself out of this danger zone and reclaim your financial freedom. Really, the two most powerful strategies are downsizing and something we call the ADU pivot. Now, downsizing is the classic approach, right? You sell your larger home, buy something smaller and less expensive, and you get to put hundreds of thousands of usually tax-free dollars right back into your nest egg. The ADU pivot is different. It's about turning your property into an income source. Now, as we've noted on the housingafter60.com website, both are powerful tools. But let's just look at the numbers on an ADU for a second. Okay, so let's actually run the numbers on that ADU pivot. Depending on where you live, of course, building an accessory dwelling unit, a granny flat, it might cost around $150,000. And I know, that sounds like a huge expense in retirement. But it is absolutely crucial to see this not as an expense, but as an investment.
Why? Because that $150,000 investment could generate, let's say, $2,000 a month in rent. Well, that's $24,000 a year. That is a 16% annual return on your money. That doesn't just beat the 4% rule. It absolutely crushes it. And all of a sudden, you haven't just lowered your costs, you've turned your biggest liability into your best performing asset.
So how can you figure out where you stand in all of this? Well, let's walk through a really simple retirement stress test that you can use to analyze your own situation, like right now.
Okay, here's the 5-step process. Step 1, calculate your annual 4% withdrawal. Just multiply your total savings by 0.04. Simple. Step 2, add in your guaranteed income, so Social Security, pensions, to that number. That's your total yearly income. Step 3, from that total, subtract your non-housing life essentials. Step 4, audit and total up your real home costs. Everything we talked about, not just the mortgage. And finally, step 5, the final comparison. Is that number from step 4 more than 30% of your total income from step 2? If the answer is yes, you probably need a new plan. And hey, if you want the full technical breakdown of this test, check the post on housingafter60.com.
So, we'll leave you with this one final and maybe a little provocative question. A lot of people stay in an expensive home because they know that when their kids eventually inherit it, they'll get a huge tax break. But you have to ask yourself, honestly ask yourself, is it worth living house poor for 20 years, sacrificing your own freedom and peace of mind just so your children can pay less in taxes someday? Your retirement is for you to live. It's not just about preserving an asset for someone else. Thanks for watching. For more guides and the full article on this topic, head over to housingafter60.com. Don't forget to check the links in the description below.
Your peace and enjoyment in retirement depends on the right housing strategy. Visit housingafter60.com for our full analysis and cost transparency guides. I will see you in the next video.